Burn it down, burn it down. Just burn it down. Let's burn it down. Let's burn it up. Let's fire it up. Welcome to 420 Live with Jeff Kravitz. It is the Hump Day edition, Wednesday, October 7th. Am I right? I'm not even going to look. Now I got to look. Yes, I got the date right. I got the time right. Welcome, everybody, from wherever you're tuning in from. Everybody kind of come on in, join us, try to get away from the madness that's going on out there. I would like you to see my Cap Theater shirt from my friend Joe Madonna over there at the Cap Theater, and my vote button that Andy Bernstein sent me from Headcount. And there's also a shirt that went with it, but the shirt smelled like new shirt, so I had to go in the wash, but I'll be wearing that. At least I'll probably be living in that vote shirt because it's our time. I got my ballot yesterday in the mail when I got home. I saw it, already started researching the propositions in my area, going to fill it all in, do my research like I've never done before up and down the ballot. The district attorney here in Los Angeles has to go. This Lacey, is that her name? She's a mess. Anyway, as you see, Agent Orange has cured himself from the COVID. He's back at work in the Oval Office looking more orange than ever, glowing the nuclear glow. Tonight, we have the debate. I was kind of hoping it was another Lakers game because, boy, that was a good game last night. They had really Miami. Oh, what a series. I don't know how many people were watching it. Our president said the worst ratings ever, or Ted Cruz said the worst ratings ever. But I'll tell you what, exciting basketball with or without. And go Lakers for my LA home team squad. I know my son, all his friends, huge Lakers fans, and happy 10 years they've been suffering. My son's 20, so he's 21. They were 11 years old last time he won. So this is his whole life. He's been following this team, and most of his life that he's been an avid sports fan, and they've been tanking. And now that they're about to do it, I'm fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But as you know, the big competition is what's going to happen in the White House and what's going to happen in the race. And Joe Biden seems to be pulling out in all the polls, 16, 17 points up. He's up in Florida by multiple points, I think almost by double points, and also in Pennsylvania, which is just unheard of, uncanny. Texas is being fought out tooth and nail right now. Everybody's in there trying to disrupt. We see what the Texas governor's done. He's taken one county for 5 million people and made it into the only place people can drop off their ballots. But you know what? People are lining up. They're dropping them off. They want to vote. And the harder people are making it, the more they seem to want to step up and vote. Everybody sees the game that's afoot. You guys, you had 4 years to lock this down. You had 4 years to unify. You had 4 years to get over 50% of the people. But you just kept on playing to the same 40%, 34%. And this is what you're going to get. You're going to lose. And you're not going to lose just the presidency. And I hate to talk optimistic about this because I know what happened in 2016, but you're not just going to lose the presidency, but I believe you're going to lose all the House and the Senate. And finally, some normalcy can get in here, and I can finally, they turn on the TV and not be lied to over and over. I'm just so beat up from being lied to, and I'm sure everybody else feels the same way. It's been tragic. So, as you know, 420 Live is a place that I come daily to distract everybody since this pandemic has started. 145 shows ago is when I started this on a whim. I am a photographer with Getty Images. If you tuned in yesterday, you saw my great friend Jeffrey Mayer, my colleague, and I going through our photography. A little bit of mine, mostly his. I was just showing my Eddie Van Halen because we lost Eddie, but watching what happened with Jeffrey's career and everybody he shot, from Bowie to John Lennon to Van Halen in the very early days. It was just inspiring and great to hear those stories, and really fun to pick someone's brain that's heard Hendrix and then all of a sudden one walks in and hears Eddie Van Halen. Can you imagine walking into a gig? I can't imagine as a photographer walking into a gig and not knowing who Jimi Hendrix is and just like having him just blow up on stage in front of you and just going, I don't know if I could even shoot. I'd be so in awe of what he was doing on guitar. I'd be trying to get a lesson. And, I know Eddie back in the day, he was turning his back on the crowd when he had certain techniques because people were trying to steal his techniques. And there were certain things that Eddie didn't want everybody to see, but he also knew how to go it up, and he was a huge showman and a huge loss. Anyway, today, Vance Powell music producer, Grammy-winning music producer, and came into our hippie vibe scene from his working with Chris Stapleton and Bradi Carlile and Jack White and so many endearing artists, Grammy-winning artists. And now he's here working with the hippies. And we want to introduce Vance Powell into 420 Live. Hello, Vance.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I can't complain. Let's put it that way. It's a beautiful day here in Nashville, and it's I'm breathing, so that's good.
That's good. And the weather's finally coming around where everybody can eat outside and hang outside. It's a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, I actually thought about just sitting outside, but it's going to get dark here in a little bit, and then I'd just be in the dark. And so, but it's really nice outside. So.
Well, Tennessee is an interesting state because they've cured COVID like Florida and Texas. So I'm wondering.
No. We have an idiot governor. Our governor used to run an air conditioning business here in town, and he just got in it. I'm sure I don't know what he got in it for, money, I guess. But living in Tennessee is great. The people, the community, the music community, the people are nice, even if they disagree with us. They're nice, but they're also, Trump won Tennessee by 28. So I feel like that my vote is sort of thrown away, here.
Well, but do you see the crowd changing? Like, because a lot of people are moving out of some of those Democratic states and stuff like that. So are you seeing a shift?
Well, what's happening is a lot of people are coming from California to here. A lot of people coming from New York. Multiple reasons. One, you could sell your house in LA and buy a can I say this? Fucking nice house here. You know what I mean? And also, there's no state income tax.
Oh.
So you're going to make about 10% of your income, 10% more of your income. And a lot of people in the music industry, they just move here, they buy a big house and put a studio out back. Almost everybody's working remote, whether it was COVID or not. I mean, especially mixer guys, which I do. About 70% of my work is mixing. They're working remotely, so nobody's there anyway, and they don't give away 10% of their income to the state. Now, what do you get for not paying 10%? Well, DMV sucks. All your social services sucks because they're contracted out. Prisons, I'm not going to get in one. Cross our fingers, knock on wood, but they're privatized. And it's just it's just one of those things.
Yeah, well, so are you seeing a change though from politically? Do you see it turning a little bit purple?
What I'm hoping, well, Nashville's blue, period. Memphis is blue, period. The thing was, Memphis was about 1 million people, and Nashville was about 500,000 people. Nashville in this census is probably going to top 1 million. We're bigger than Memphis now, so there has been a drain in Memphis. Because Memphis is pretty. It's not a great city. It's a great city. It's just, I think it's a great city to live in if you're relatively affluent and white. It's pretty awesome. If you're not, it's not really. But Nashville is like, the parts of Nashville that weren't very good have gentrified out big time. At one point, sometime in 18 or 19, Nashville was getting 300 people a day, new residents. So if you do 300 people a day and you just multiply that for 365 days by 4 or 5 years, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then
that's your half a million people right there. That's your calculation.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things. Like if we went from 500,000 to 700,000, and now we could be at 1.1 million. And a lot of those people are young, affluent, because we didn't get the big Amazon thing, but what we did get was we got the logistics hub. In other words, all the people typing, not other people typing, but all the people managing the logistics is here for Amazon downtown. They got a huge, big area downtown. And, there are, I think, Diane, my wife, we just counted 17, was it 17 cranes, babe? Was that? I think it was 17 cranes in downtown Nashville.
Wow.
And these are building high rises. So, I mean, I moved here 18 years ago, and you know, at that point you could go down on Broadway and buy crack and a hooker, you know, and now you go down there and it's bachelorettes, drunk bachelorettes, in pink boots and hats, wearing blow up penises, you know, riding pedal cars. It's just a totally different world. You know?
Well, I'm glad to see it because I've been going to Nashville probably the past 20 years also for Bonnaroo. I mean, that brought me to Nashville every year. And I watched the whole city change. So when you moved out there, you were already music producing in early 2000s?
I was a recording engineer starting really in about 1985, but from 83 to 2002, I was a touring live sound engineer mainly. And when I moved to Nashville in 92, I moved here to work for Tammy Wynette, Stand By Your Man.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was her front of house engineer and production manager for about 5 years. And she was awesome. She was a great singer. She was amazing. She, you know, liked bad men. So, you know, and one of them killed her. So, you know.
Tragic.
And got away with it. But karma's a bitch because he got lung cancer and died a long, hard, painful death. That deserved him, to be honest with you. But yeah. So yeah, that's when I moved here. I had been making records. I worked for a little studio in my hometown in Joplin, Missouri, for a few years. I'd say from 86 to 90. And then I moved to a little town, a bigger town in Missouri called Springfield, Missouri, which is a college town. And it's actually kind of a really cool music hub. If anybody wants to look around, there's a great documentary by the great writer Dave Hoekstra, did a documentary about Springfield, Missouri, the center of nowhere. Look that up on YouTube. It's great. I'm in it. In one spot. But I went to work for a guy who was really instrumental in a lot of the cool music out of there, Lou Whitney. I worked for him. And, you know, it was a great experience working, and I worked in the studio with him. And then I got the gig with Tammy. I moved to Nashville, and I worked in Nashville for about 10 years. And all during that time, I was still trying to make records, trying to go back to Missouri or other places to make records. But I could not get into the Nashville scene because there's a hierarchy, there's a way to go about it, which is quite different now, but it was back in those days. There was a hierarchy. I just couldn't get in. You know, I was 28.
Well, because we're older guys that generationally had been in and weren't going anywhere.
Well, yeah. And the other thing was, like, I was 28 or 29 years old and had been working at studios outside of Nashville, but the only studio that would hire me didn't want me to pay me. They just wanted me as an intern. So I would be taking out trash and all that. And I had been making records for 5 years, you know. So my pride, now I probably should have tried to do it, but my pride was like, fuck that, you know. Because at that time, I was a touring mixing engineer. I wasn't the crew guy, which nothing wrong with that. My crew, the crew guys who worked for me were awesome and worked with me, you know. But I was the mixer. So and I was a production manager. It was my game. I could do what I wanted. And I did that and was on a trajectory, you know, to take that to, like, you know, A-list clients. I was mixing B-list clients, you know. I mixed Tammy Wynette for a while. I mixed Martina McBride, who was great. And then I mixed a band called Jars of Clay, and worked for them right up really until I quit touring. And I did a record with them. They tried to hire me in 2001, early 2001, to make a Christmas record. And we worked on that Christmas record for all of maybe 4 hours until we just started doing other songs. And then that record turned into a record called The 11th Hour, which was my first Grammy win. So it was recorded, and I mean this, it was recorded in the garage. They had a 2-car garage. We recorded all the drums and guitars out there, and then there was a little studio, and it was nice. It took 11 months. Took a long time to do it, and I took a whole year off I worked for Clare Brothers at the time, and I took a whole year off. And then in the end, median of all that, my friend John McBride, who was a part owner of Clare Brothers, and his wife was Martina McBride, who had worked for her. He wanted to build a studio, and so he started asking me a lot of questions, and it ended up he bought this building and turned it into Blackbird, which is, probably one of the greatest recording studios in the world right now. So, I went through that crazy build. What started out as $1 million studio is now a $35 million, 13-room behemoth. So yeah, it was a fun ride.
And how did you get involved with Jack White and the White Stripes?
Well, to be honest with you, now here's the interesting thing. I actually never did anything with the White Stripes exactly. I mixed their movie, Great White Under Great White Northern Lights. I did mix that movie, but how I get to work with Jack was he had toured the studio, and I was a studio manager, chief engineer. I gave him the tour, sort of the technical tour, and he came in and recorded a record of Hank Williams Sr., sort of a tribute with Joe Ciccarelli, amazing engineer, LA. I mean, look him up. It's amazing. Frank Zappa. I mean, he did Joe's Garage,
Oh, excellent.
And U2, and I mean, the Shins, and I mean, he's amazing. And so he came in and they did that, and then they did Icky Thump there. While they were doing Icky Thump, I was building the studio adjacent to them. They were in Studio D. I was building Studio C, which if anybody wants to get on the website, blackbirdstudio.com, and look up Studio C, you'll see it's an amazing work of art. I was working with the famous engineer George Massenberg, and we were putting this crazy studio together there. And Jack came by one day, and I think I know why, because I mean, I know Meg now and all that, but she doesn't like people looking at her. She's a little agoraphobic. She doesn't like, for someone who's a rock star, she doesn't really like people looking at her. And there was a window at the end of this hallway, and I was setting up this server for George, and the only thing I could do is stand in the hallway. And I looked down. I heard a door open, and I looked down and I saw her through the window. And then a few minutes later, Jack came out, and I think he just wanted to know what I was doing out there, because Meg was freaked out. And we talked a little bit. He realized what I was doing was benign, and then he asked if we had a spring reverb unit, this particular type, and I said, well, Blackbird doesn't, but I do. I can go get it for you. And he's like, well, where is it? He goes, I don't want you to go to your house or anything. Oh no, it's my studio. It's just right down the street. He's like, why do you have a studio? I go, because you're in here. That's why I have a studio, because you're in here. And he's like, oh, I get it. And he goes, well, that'd be great. So I went and got it and brought it to him. And then we just sort of would talk in passing. And then one day I was at my studio after hours, and he just walked in. He saw my car and just walked in. And because my studio was at the Old House of Blues. And so I said, oh, it's the Old House of Blues, the red building. And so he just walked in, he looked around, and I was like, hey, it's cool. And then he called me to do this project, him and Brian Byers, a Danger Mouse from Danger Mouse, called the Rome record. And if you haven't heard it, it's one of the most beautiful, amazing records ever. And basically, Brian and another composer wrote these scores in Italy, went to Rome, and recorded them with Ennio Morricone's own orchestra.
Wow.
And then Brian's process is to take these pieces and parts, because he's a remixer, and then I twist them around and put vocals over them. And so Jack wrote a song he wrote 3 songs actually, but I think only 2 made the record, but I think there was 3. And then he had Nora Jones also sing on it. But the record is sort of half instrumental and half Nora, half Jack. And so we ended up spending a couple of days just doing overdubs and some Wurlitzer and vocals and all that. And then that record disappeared off my radar for 3 years. Like, didn't even see it. And then he called me to do a White Stripes remix. So I guess I have one real White Stripes track. And that was the Spanish language version of Conquest, which of course is Conquista. And it's really tongue in cheek. There's all kinds of really cool, fun things. This is a little technical, but this is all done on tape. Joe Ciccarelli did it. And he had used 2 16-track tape machines. And there was a lot of overdubs, all the horns and a lot of jacks, all these things. And he had put those on the second reel, but then had bounced them back to make it just on one reel. Well, we needed a track or two for him to do it, to do this. And there wasn't any tracks on their master. So when I loaded it up, I thought, we'll just use the slave and then blah, blah, blah. We'll just, And when we did it, we realized that when he mixed the record, he made an edit right at the top. And so when that edit goes by, it screws up the time code. And so the track went da-da, 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 da-da. It was all in echoes, and it was exactly in time. And so Jack and I were like, whoa, that's really cool. Or I was like, that's really cool. So then when Jack came in, I go, let me show you something. Check this out. He's like, okay, remember that. So his take on it changed. Instead of being real straight to being kind of a little tongue-in-cheek and over the top.
Hold on. You can grab it if you want. Go ahead. It's live, Vance. Everything happens.
Yeah, I don't care. So sorry about that, y'all.
That's all right.
So we did that, and then he was working on the Raconteurs Consolers of the Lonely record. He just called me and asked me to mix it out of the blue. Right, 23rd of December, right before Christmas. So it was a really nice Christmas present. And then I did that in February, and then we did the James Bond theme for Quantum of Solace, and then I started working at his house a lot, and then it just turned into 8 years of work. It was great.
And talk about
absolutely positive. One of the most talented, if not the most talented musician I've ever been around.
His studio sense and his musical sense and his instinct. I mean, is he dead cold? Like, is that it? Is he like at the Prince level of guys in the studio that are creative and can do almost anything?
I think that he's equally. I mean, Prince is kind of like,
he's the gold standard, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jack would put himself in Prince's thing, but the thing about Jack is Jack can, like Prince, play anything. He even things he doesn't know how to play, he'll figure it out. I gave him my assistant and I gave him a theremin one year for his birthday, right? It sat over in a corner. It just got dust on it. One day he gets out, he goes, okay, cool, we're going to do this track and I'm going to play theremin. And it was a live track with like 10 people in a small room. And I was like, oh God, it's going to be a fucking disaster. And he's like, woo, woo, woo. He had it down. And I was like, dude, you've been sandbagging this thing. Like, how did you? He goes, well, I don't sleep very much. And often I just come out here in the middle of the night and I'll play theremin. And I'm like, interesting. So your neighbors are hearing, because he plays everything. He plays loud. It's just blaring through the area that he lives in, just theremin, just blaring up the mountain. So yeah, but yeah, so he's an amazing keyboard player, organ, piano, Rhodes, Worley, all that stuff. He's just a master of it. He's a great drummer. He's a really nice, fun bass player. And of course, guitar monster. Come on. Yeah. And he's a great singer. He sings in pitch and he gets that Jack White sound with his voice. It's easy for him. It's very funny to do vocals with him because if he sings something wrong, he's like, he'll sing a note and be like, shit, no, fuck, shit, stop. And then we rewind and he's like, damn it, stop, rewind, damn it, hell, shit. It's like, he's very funny. He's also really, really humorous. He's a very funny guy. He has comedian speed wit. I mean, he's so witty and so fast. Yeah, just a really, really special guy. And he stops by my studio every now and then and just comes in and says hi and freaks out my clients. Oh God,
Oh,
Jack, hi.
sure.
But he's just, he's an interesting enigma.
What would you say? What would you say is one of the better things you learned from him in the studio that you took with you that ended up being something that changed the way you worked?
I think that the thing is that perfection is what you make of it. Like trying to record everything perfect and be perfect on everything isn't very human, to be honest with you. It's just not very human. We aren't perfect things. We like metronomically perfect things. We like dance music. We like that, but real people singing real songs about real things. It doesn't matter if it's in tune or out of tune. If the words connect to you, they connect to you, period. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. I mean, part of that is hard for me as an engineer because I want things to be great and perfect and all that. But the old Chet Atkins story, or it's Les Paul. The story is like, man, a guy came up and says, man, Les, I love your guitar sound. I love that guitar. It sounds so good. And Les set it to one side and said, well, how's it sound now? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you think it sounds like now? It doesn't. So, it's a funny thing, like engineers and producers, and artists and all, we can't do our job really without them. But by the same token, they can't do their job without us. It's a two-way street.
It's a symbiosis that you need to have the engineers in there and the mixers.
You need to have good. You need to have good people, and the biggest thing is like you can teach all the technical stuff, but the big deal is the hang. If you can do the hang, where you can just hang with somebody that's famous and talented, and you don't make them feel weird because you're hanging with them. Doesn't matter how great a job you do. The really talented people are smart, funny, and know when to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but is it a fine line because you're in the studio about trying to know and find the comfort level where you feel free enough to give your opinion when you hear something that doesn't go quite right, or is it walking on eggshells?
On your role. It depends on your role. If I'm the producer, then it's my job to do that. If I'm the engineer, it's my job to tell the producer.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I'm the assistant engineer, it's my job to tell the engineer to tell the producer.
You got to go through the pecking order.
And if I'm the intern, it's my job to stay the fuck out of the room. Go take out the trash or whatever it is that we need them to do. So, yeah, it's all about roles. And the longer you do this, the more you understand your role. I have been very lucky with Jack. I'm never anything more than the engineer. I'm never credited as producer or anything. That's Jack White. But I worked with him for so long that I can say, hey, maybe is this the right note here? Because it sounds wrong, but is that cool? And he'd go, oh yeah. Nah, that's wrong, but it's cool. You know what I mean? Or let's fix it.
Well, because it's just Jack is the producer and he's also the artist. It's kind of like when an actor's a director, you need someone else there to bounce off of, right?
Sometimes, yeah. He's not a guy though that asks what do you think of that? He's not a guy who does that.
Yeah,
he's got a vision. He's got a thing. He's going to do his deal. You know?
All right.
But not everybody's that way. A lot of people are like, what do you think? Especially, I did a session one time with Jewel, as they say here in Nashville, God bless her. And she came in, she's an amazing singer. She's awesome. But she's got her little dog with her in her hand. I'm not kidding. This hand dog. She's got a hand dog. And she's got her little hand dog, George. and she goes in to sing, and she doesn't want to stand. She wants to sit. So we get her a comfortable chair and we get her in there and playing through the track. And she's like, "Oh, I want to sing that chorus again." And I'm like, "Okay." So we sing it again, and then again, and then again, and then again. And this, 60 times, we go down this path. And she's like, "What do you think?" And at that point, I'm just like, the first one she sang was great, and I'm like, "You know what, Jewel, you're asking me a question above my pay grade, man. I mean, I'm not the producer. You are, She's like, "Well, I don't give a shit. You tell me what you think." And I go, "The first one you sang was great." And she goes, "Bullshit." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'll play it for you." I played it for her and she goes, "You're right. That's really good. Let me sing it again." You know what I mean? So she took my advice, agreed with it, and then continued down the same path. So, it's artists. That's what they do.
Oh God! And they all get hardwired in different ways as they get longer in their careers too. In the beginning, probably the easiest people to work with. Same thing with photography. When we deal with them in Hollywood, you get somebody that's a new talent, and they're so eager and happy to work with you. And then as they get more and more up the pay grade, it's all of a sudden everything's more difficult. So right. I read 6 Grammy wins. Is that right? Yep. So the first one with Jars of Clay. What was number 2?
Number 2 was Best Engineered Album, Non-Classical for the Raconteurs.
Great.
3 was for Buddy Guy.
Legend.
4 was for Chris Stapleton.
And was that Chris's first record?
Traveler. That was Traveler.
An unbelievable record. He took the world by storm, Chris Stapleton. And also another guy that didn't seem to me when I watched him perform that he was really comfortable in front of the cameras and the lights. But
he's comfortable on stage. I can tell you that. Live, he's pretty fucking amazing. I worked with him yesterday, matter of fact. I can say categorically that Chris and Morgan Stapleton are the best people I've ever been around ever. I do love Jack White. He is awesome and he's an amazing guy, but Chris and Morgan have gone out of their way. I can't really, I can just say they've just gone out of the way to just be the best people. And they are loyal probably to a fault to a guy like me. They absolutely will not do anything without me, which is pretty amazing. Chris did a bunch of things for a while, a few years back, and he just called me one time. He's like, "Can you tell these guys what to do, what you do, because they got it totally wrong." And I get the engineer and I'm like, "What mic are you using?" He's like, "This mic." I'm like, No, get rid of that. You need this. And he's like, "I never heard of that." And I go, "Yeah, just get this and put it on his voice and you'll hear it, And then later the guy called me. He's like, "Man, I would have fought you tooth and nail if Chris wasn't standing there, but you were right." So it's just one of those things. Like you just, I really love the two of them. And they're humble people, and I like that. Chris is probably the most talented singer I will ever record, ever.
Wow.
He's just, what a lot of people don't realize, and people who make records, modern records are usually made by multiple different ways, but the old school way of making records were you got a band and you got the strings and you got a band in the room and then the singer at the end of the room, and then you played the track and the singer sang it, and then you recorded the band and that was the track. And if you wanted to do strings, you usually did them as an overdub or something. You did it later.
You would record the band all at once live
with the singer. That's how it used to be, right? That's how it used to be. That's how all the Frank Sinatra records were doing it. That's how that's how all the records were done, right?
Were the Beatles going in and laying down bass tracks and then piano tracks, or were they all in there?
Well, the first Beatles record was done in one day. So yes, they were playing and singing it all live. Now, as they went on, they overdubbed. The Beatles recorded the first Beatles record is on 2 tracks, right? Vocals on 1 track, drums and bass on the other. Then later they went to 4 track. I think on their 3rd record, 4 track, right? So they had a little bit more, and then they went to, like much later on, Abbey Road. They went to 8-track. Actually, the White Album they went to 8-track, and then Abbey Road was 8-track too. But the band played the song together. That was how it worked. But then what happened is we got into 8-track and 16-track and 24-track. The band would play the track, and there'd be a couple drum tracks or 3 or 4 drum tracks, and then there'd be the band. And then they would probably sing the vocals afterwards. They'd get the singer, and they'd do the singer, and then they'd do background vocals, and then they'd do guitar overdubs or whatever, and that's how records started getting made. And that was kind of how it did. Every Chris Stapleton record that I've ever done, he has sang and played every song live with the band. So Tennessee Whiskey is one take. Wow. That's him playing guitar, singing, and the drums and the bass all at one time. Once. We cut it 3 times. We used 1 bar from the first take in the original, in the master. And that was a bar of the drums where Derek Mixon played this little hi-hat thing that Chris really loved. So he flew that 1 bar in, just like cutting tape, but we did it digitally. Yeah. We just flew it in, and that was it. He didn't re-sing any song, anything on that, but one song. It was one song he felt like his vocal performance wasn't as good as the band performance.
Wait, you're telling me that everything on the record was 1 track except for 1 song? 1 take?
Well, not 1 track, 1 take.
1 take.
Live vocals, live guitars, everything. Now, we may have overdubbed shakers. Morgan may have sang.
Do you find that keeps more of the mystique and the mojo in the music?
No, it's just music at that point. It's not production. It's just music, and the production ends up being Chris and Dave Cobb figuring out like, okay, maybe we should go to the chorus here, or maybe the bridge should be here. But most of the time, Chris has these songs, man. He's a great songwriter. He has them done. They go in, they figure out the tempo where it feels good. They play around with it. I'm recording everything, and then they'll play it, and there's the take, done. And sometimes it's, the chorus 2 from 1 take is better than chorus 2 in this one. And, we cut the tape together. But every take is not us meticulously having him sing it over and over and over, tuning it, pitching it, doing all that. There's
how long did it take to record the record?
I think we did the whole record in maybe 10 or 12 days. Wow. We recorded a lot of songs. We started late and ended late, and we ate lunch. We would get lunch, and like the typical day was I'd show up at noon. We'd order lunch. Chris would come in about 1. He would call an order in. He'd come in about 1. The band would come in at 3. We'd all hang out. They'd, maybe have a drink or something, and, around 4:20, there might be 4:20 for some of them. And then, although Chris, and then we'd start recording, and sometimes we'd get done at 10. Sometimes we'd get done at 11. Sometimes we get 2 songs or 3 songs. Sometimes we'd go off on tangents, and they would like jam. There's a great Freddie King jam that I've got, but of course we can't put it on a record because it's 17. I mean, we can put it on a Phish record, but it's the band jamming for 17 minutes on this Freddie King song, and Chris singing it and playing solo and soloing, and it's great, but it's
just for fun. Yeah. All right, so
it's just for fun.
Wrap me up now. 4, 5, and 6. Grammy 4, 5.
So sorry. Let me back up. Jars of Clay, Raconteurs, Buddy Guy, Stapleton, Traveler. 5 and 6 were on the same day. 5 was for a CeCe Winans record. I engineered more than half of, mixed the song on. She's a the greatest living gospel singer ever, and she's a real sweet. We're 8 days apart. We're the same age, but 8 days apart. She's a Leo like I am, and she was very nice. And then for from A Room Volume 1, which is Stapleton. So I have 2 from Stapleton. Hold on a second here. you go. So
Oh, look at that.
here's Traveler.
That is
So
great.
weird backwards. That's Traveler. And then the other one I have here is for Buddy Guy. I gave the Jars of Clay one to my mom. I gave it to my mom, and then I gave the A Room one for my mom. So my mom has 2 Grammys.
That's beautiful.
And then I have 2 at the studio. So
congratulations on the awards. I know it's always a shock when you kind of come into LA and all of a sudden you're at some award show, walking down a carpet and then going up there to make a speech. It's always got to be like, holy crap, this is so out of my wheelhouse.
I've only had to do the speech once. So, but I was up for 3 Album of the Year, which is the big, that's the telecast.
Oh, yeah.
That's Album of the Year. I was up for Traveler, and then I was up for Blunderbuss, Jack White, and then I was up for Beyonce.
Wow.
For and for Don't Hurt Yourself, the Jack White track that was on Lemonade, with 50 other people. So I was one of 50.
How many people does it take to make a Beyonce record? All right. Well, the band that everybody's hot for now, people have been blowing up my chat here, is Trey Anastasio and Phish and Ghost of the Forest. I guess Ghost of the Forest was
I've heard of it. I've heard of him.
You've heard of it. So Ghost of the Forest was your first Trey project?
Yes. Yes.
And how did the Red Demon come into your life?
What's funny is in the most obtuse way, Patrick Jordan, Trey and Phish's manager, managed Bradi Carlile. Dave Cobb asked me to do this Bradi Carlile live video shoot because he was busy doing something else. And it was a live, 4-camera shoot at RCA Studio A, live recording and video, right? And so we had live string players and drums, the whole thing live, no monitors, no floor monitors, no headphones. So we just set it up. I just set it up as best I could so that they could play and hear themselves. The guitars had some little amps, and we did actually finally get Brandi one little speaker and for a little bit of her voice, but basically it was all just live in the room. It was really beautiful. We spent a whole day and we recorded 10 takes of every. There were 6 songs or 5 songs we did. We did 10 takes of every one. Everybody got angry and mad at each other, and it was a long, stupid day. But out of that came really 3 or 4 brilliant performances and pretty fair recording by me. And you can find those on YouTube. They're out there. They're Brandi Live in RCA Studio A. Patrick was kind of freaked out by how well it worked and knew that Trey wanted to change the way they were making records from Phish, the way Phish had made their last few records. So Trey had this Ghost of the Forest thing that he'd been working on for a couple of years. And so Patrick called me and he said, I don't know if you'd be interested. And I was like, well, of course, sure. And then Trey called me and we ended up talking for 2 hours. We're kind of the same age, we're both the same age. We both grew up loving Eddie Van Halen, Dear Departed, and we loved rock and roll. We loved the Beatles. We loved the Rolling Stones. We loved pretty much a lot of the same bands. Except he really loved the Grateful Dead, and I honestly didn't. So, I know it's blasphemy, but I just was sort of whatever. I like bands that had hair.
Hey, listen, everybody has a thing. I'll tell you what.
I like these bands.
When I was a teenager, I wasn't listening to the Grateful Dead. I was 30 before I started listening to the Grateful Dead. So everybody gets it, different things at different times. But I like punk too. Go ahead.
I did appreciate the music for music's sense. In other words, they're playing music. They're not playing music to write hits. They're not playing music they're playing music to play music. And I like that. Because there was a lot of bands there's a lot of bands out there that did that.
Most bands have to try to play the record label make a hit
Sure.
game for years and years and years. It's not like it is now where you get a TikTok and you make $1 million.
Yeah. Well, the world has changed.
Yes.
But so him and we talked, and he said, "How would you do it?" And I just said, "Well, we'd come up to the barn, I'd put mics up, and just have you guys play the song. I mean, it's not that complicated. And then we'll set it so that you can sing, and everybody will know the deal, and we'll do it without headphones." And that was like, what? No headphones? Yeah, like you just make your amps. We just figure out how your amps aren't very loud, and we just make sure that everybody can hear everybody, and we just do it without headphones. No click, no headphones, just you guys playing. And so we recorded that whole record, all the basic tracks, in about 3 days, 4 days.
This is Ghost,
And
right?
then Ghost, yeah. And then we spent, I think that Mike and I, that's my assistant, I think we were up there about 10 or 11 days. We did overdubs, we did vocals, we did things. And then we, Trey did some vocals with Rob, his coach, up at the barn or in New York or somewhere. And then, although maybe we didn't do that, I can't remember, it's so fuzzy. But then he came down to Nashville. We did some overdubs in Nashville. I brought in a couple Nashville friends of mine. I brought in Charlie Lowell, who used to play in Jars of Clay, to play keys. And even though this was outside their box, I just said, look, I want all the keys and synths to be taste, not parts. The three members of the band are the important part. I don't want no soloing, no licks, no all that. And I think at first Trey, he was sort of like, this is blowing my mind that there's he's just playing chords. But in time, some of that sort of soaked in, and it started to work. But then Trey did have I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Plays in Tab.
Pakowski, Ray?
Yes. Had him play on it. And then we went up to New York, and we spent a week in New York at Power Station recording Celeste and pianos and some more acoustic guitar and all this. And then we mixed it. And then we worked on the sequence for a long time. The fourth side was this concept thing for a while, went through a bunch of different ideas, and then kind of landed where it landed. And there's some fun, I guess I'd call it sort of like synchronicity or something. Under a Sea of Stars, the intro was really long, and they were just jamming it. It wasn't the take, but it was the take. You know what I mean? So while they were jamming it, catering was bringing lunch in. So like you could hear them like setting up plates, and like Mike and I, my assistant, talking, and it ended up kind of being this thing where there was just this ambient noise happening. And I had gone up into the woods at one point and taken outside the barn and taken this big stereo mic I have and recorded about 40 minutes of just the evening, like dusk. And so we put that underneath it, and that became sort of this sound that comes and goes in and out of that fourth side, the outdoors, the barn, outside the barn.
Wow.
And if you listen on the beginning of that song, you can hear me sliding the barn door closed. There's this rolling, sliding barn door, me just closing the door after walking down the hill.
Crazy. Yeah. So that was recorded in 3 different places then, right? New York, Nashville, and
I think 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then that led to Sigma Oasis, and that was recorded in your studio in Nashville, right? Oh, that was in the barn also.
Recorded at the barn over about 6 days. But probably the band, these are songs, Sigma Oasis are songs they've been playing forever.
Right.
My job as the producer / co-producer of this is to basically be the facilitator. I'm facilitating these songs that they're playing. So they may have played the song Sigma Oasis 3 times. So in those 3 times, there may be 12 bars that are awesome from the third take. And then there may be 13 bars or 15 bars or 16 bars or whatever, from another take that might be better. And so it was a lot of comping pieces together, but still keeping the actual performance. It's their performance. It's
so, and with those guys, you recorded them all at once live,
like all at once. No headphones.
And when was the last time they'd done something like that, or had they ever done something? Never. And what was their takeaway from it?
Well, I didn't get fired. So.
But did they say did they talk about the process with you, or did they just lay themselves into it and go with it?
Not really. They just played. I mean, part of the thing here is that I feel like that this record was different from everything they'd done before, because the way they'd made records before was a much more traditional album thing. Producer picks the songs, tells the band what to play, sets the tempo, hits the click track.
Well, especially Bob Ezrin, who's kind of like a dance master, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, but he's fucking Bob Ezrin. He did the role, so however he got there, it got there, And I think I wanted it to be for them more joyful, more like what they do live. I just wanted them to play the songs like they did live, and then I'll spend the time to go in and do it. Now, here's what's interesting, is that what happened was we recorded it. Then I had, then we all had lives. And then I went in to do the new Chris Stapleton record in January. It was planned for this record to come out for Sigma Oasis. I think the original plan was for it to come out on Halloween. I'm not supposed to probably tell people that, but that was kind of the idea, I think, that sometime here in the fall, let's just say in the fall.
Ah, gotcha.
And that means we were going to get back together and work on some parts and this and that. And basically what ended up happening was I got done with Stapleton on the 1st of March. I started an old 97s record, a band I love producing and working with.
Yes.
And then 16 days later, shut down. So in the meantime, my assistant Mike had been making edits. We'd been talking about edits. We'd been doing edits and sitting to them like, what do you think of this song? What do you think of this edit? How's this feel? All that had been going on in the background. And then Mike had been flying down to Atlanta, or driving down actually, and working with Rob and Trey at a studio in Atlanta. By the same time, Paige was working at his place up in Vermont. And then Mike was working. He did some vocals up at the studio. And then Phish actually overdubbed some drums in some spots. So it was kind of one of these things where everybody was kind of working towards things. And then suddenly we have this COVID. And I was like, look, guys, I can mix this record. If everybody likes it, which I do, I can mix it because I'm working by myself. My assistant and I have been next to each other every day. And we are both driving from our house to the studio and back, and that's it. And so we basically sort of snuck that in and got it done. And there you go. Sigma Oasis.
Well, it was.
And then we spent some time. I did record strings in Sputnik. So we did record strings in Sputnik. So it was recorded in Vermont. It was recorded at a studio in Atlanta, vocals. Paige's studio at his house, Mike's studio wherever Mike was working, and then Fishman has a studio I think up in Maine somewhere that he'd been working, and then Sputnik. But I did all the strings at Sputnik.
How did you like recording in the barn?
Oh, it's great. It was interesting this time because it was cold, it snowed. Goes to the Forest. It was June. It was beautiful out.
Right.
And there's no air conditioning, so part of the thing about Ghost is the doors are open, so nature is just a part of the recording the whole time. But for Phish, all the doors were closed because it was snowing.
You had to close it up. And, I know you're very political. I saw your Twitter. So burn it down as an album cover, as an album title.
Yeah.
I heard, was that your idea?
No, not my idea. Well, no, it's really Trey's idea. I had some ideas I threw around, but it's really Trey's idea. I mean, one of the interesting things is we recorded Set Your Soul Free on Ghost of the Forest.
Right.
Didn't use it. Then we recorded it on the Phish record. Didn't use it. Or no, we did use it. Yeah, we did use it. Or did we?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Hold on, wait. There's a question here. Yeah. Why did Phish not put Set Your Soul Free on Sigma Oasis is the question. And saw that you recorded it on your whiteboard, and did you like it? Of course he liked it.
I did like it. Yeah, it was great. That was great. To be honest with you, I think it was just there were so many other great songs that we had. And you know, I mean, that's probably a Trey question.
Of course.
I think the tab version to me feels like the right sort of version. When I saw him in Nashville, I saw Phish in Nashville, and they played it, and it was great. So, but man, with a horn, and you know, I mean,
how many times have you seen Phish?
Twice.
And so you're not a Deadhead, but did you understand how the Dead influenced Phish when you saw them? And did you? Well, the Phish is definitely a little bit more rocking than the Dead in many ways.
Yeah.
And Trey brings from all the experiences that he grew up with too, so it makes it really enjoyable.
Sure.
How many hours did you spend listening to live tapes before you picked the songs that you wanted for the album?
You mean for
Say Your Soul for Burn It Down?
Burn It Down. Okay, so, well, that record is actually was technologically complicated. Their front of house engineer Gary has been recording every show, of course. It's 128 tracks.
It's 128 tracks.
It's 128 track recording because he's got all kinds. I mean, there's talkback mics, there's all kinds of things, plus audience and all that. So we had to take basically the whole record is culled, would be the right word, I guess, or maybe that's the right word. It's culled from 3 shows: New York show, New Orleans show, and an LA show. And those 3 shows, plus there's one other show that I can't remember what it is, where I had to go find a piece. The great thing is because Gary's recording it every night and because the band is so damn good, you can't tell the difference where they are.
Right.
Almost every song somehow is one of those 3 or all 3 shows. And that's kind of the beauty of this, that my job was to, as a sort of producer of this, was to pick the best parts, let the band jam when the band needed to jam and it was cool. And if it didn't get cool, okay, we need to find an ending. You know, like, okay, cool. This song could be 11 minutes, but to be honest with you, there's 7 great minutes. And I mean great minutes. And then there's like, 2 minutes that are pretty good. And then there's,
were you cutting them down? Were you cutting out some of the?
Sure.
So that's how come they're all so concise. Because when I looked at the track listing, it's 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes.
Well, I didn't cut anything huge and long. I mean, but the thing is, we wanted to get more songs on the record. It's still 6 sides of vinyl.
6 sides of vinyl.
It's 6 sides of vinyl.
Who's putting stuff on vinyl? I guess they do it.
Everybody.
You
know why? Because it's the only media that makes money.
Vinyl.
The only medium, vinyl, that makes money. Especially in Europe, man. Like I know bands that they're not putting out CDs. Nobody makes any money on streaming, period. I mean, they do, but not a lot, right? Yeah. And but if you go to Europe and you can sell your vinyl now, 6 sides of vinyl is a 40 or 50 pound euro vinyl. Let's say minus the production cost might cost what I did, but just the production cost per record, right? Per package is probably $16, $17, maybe. Right. So if you're selling it for 50,
3 albums, right? 6 sides.
3 albums.
Yeah.
3 albums. Yeah. It's Burn It Down will be 3 sides of vinyl. And we did have a little bit of a problem with the Sigma Oasis vinyl. The Sigma Oasis vinyl sounds better than the digital, period.
Mm-hmm.
But it had to get pressed twice. The test pressings came back and they were wrong. They were broken. So that put us back about 5 weeks, right over Christmas. This was right over Christmas too. So, oh no, not Christmas. This was in the middle of the shutdown. So yeah, it was a whole nother ball of wax. Yeah,
trying to
but
do
the Sigma Oasis vinyl, I promise you, sounds better than the record.
Wow.
It's just really it's a beautiful cut. My friend Pete Lyman mastered it, and him and I sat in his control room as he cut the vinyl and listened to all 4 sides.
Absolutely incredible. Well, the album is so rocking. I mean, it has its quiet parts too, but I was listening to About the Run, and oh my God, it is just screaming take. I mean, a lot of fun to have to go through that and pick out your favorites. Have you become a fan of?
And there's a lot of songs. I mean, there's a lot of songs on that record. So it took a good amount of time. I mean, I think I probably spent more studio days on that, on Burn It Down, than the Phish record.
Wow.
Because it's just so much stuff to go through. It came to me on 2 4-terabyte drives. So, I mean, getting it down, the master, this is your digital nerds out there, the master session with all the songs in sequence, all the tracks, that I used on the record, is right under 1 terabyte, just for one session.
So 25% of what you were sent, you had pulled out of that.
Well, because every show, it was the whole show.
Right.
So 3 hours. And then I've got to pick out, I have to pull this song and then we have to export it.
It came from 3 shows. Is that because we all know that there's some nights of tour that are much better than anything else that's happened before and after. So the highlight nights of the run are the Cap Theater and that New Orleans show, correct?
Yeah.
They just stand they must be heads and tails above everything else.
The Cap Theater, the New Orleans show, and the New York show.
Yeah. Oh, and that the LA show, right? But the LA show was only 1 track, I think.
Well, maybe 1 whole track, but that LA show, there's some solos that are probably from that.
Great. Well, that's I think that's the only
somebody out there in Phish world can listen to live Phish, find the solos, mark them down, and they'll figure out all my edits.
Well, someone is going to do that now that you told them that was something that could be done. That's how they are. What's it like working with a rabid fan base like the Phish heads? Because they are very, very demanding.
Man, they're so nice. They're like the nicest people ever. I mean, it's funny for me because I'm not a Phish head. I'm not. I love the guys and I love working with them, and I love Trey and all of them. They're all so sweet and great. And fun to be around.
You're not going to be touring with Phish? We're not going to be able to see you riding the rail for a whole tour when they come back?
Never
say never.
I don't think even Phish can afford me to do that. So, we even Trey and I talked about maybe be coming up to the Beacon and just hanging out a little bit for some of this run. But it doesn't work for me. I'm booked for the next 5 weeks. I'm making a record, and I just can't really do it. Maybe some point later on. Yeah, it was great because Diane and I went. I saw Phish at Bonnaroo years and years ago, and I watched him for an hour, and then we went, oh, let's go see somebody.
Right.
Guar. You know what I mean? Like, let's go see Guar.
I remember that year.
So, it's like one of those kind of, it's Bonnaroo, you go where the day takes you,
Yeah.
There's so many great shows that happen in Bonnaroo that I totally missed, for multiple reasons. I flew from South Africa. I did the World Cup in 2010, flew to South Africa, went to see the Dead Weather played. Or no, it was the Raconteurs. No, it was Dead Weather. Dead Weather played, and then after Dead Weather was Stevie Wonder. It was fucking amazing. And then after that was Jay-Z. And I was so jet lagged at that point. I'm like, man, I really want to watch this, but I can't.
You got to
Can't.
go home.
I just gotta go. I gotta go back to the tent and get in my tent and sleep. The
Bonnaroo life.
Bonnaroo life. So there's a lot of shows that I've missed for various reasons. But I checked that out, and then Diana and I went to the show here in Nashville, and she was the first one to say everybody's so nice. People are like letting you in the aisle, and like jamming, and so it was a great, and it was a great experience. It was awesome. I loved it.
Beautiful venue too. That is
the Ascend. It's great. I saw Trey at the Ryman, and to be honest with you, that was awesome because it wasn't about the lights. It wasn't about the jam. You know what I mean? It wasn't about the ancillary, the party, so to speak. It was about, here's a guy who's writing songs and singing for you guys, to you all, about things that he likes and cares about. And I was really, really blown away by that.
Was that acoustic?
It was acoustic, yeah.
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 Something else. Well, that's I think the Beacon, he's going to mix it up. There's going to be some acoustics, some trio, some quattro. He's going to have all different things. So
it's a rumor. It's a rumor. I cannot I can't confirm nor deny.
Don't confirm it or deny it. I think the big takeaway I got tonight was that Sigma Oasis was going to be released around Halloween, and this was going to be their Halloween show this year. So I don't know.
You didn't hear that from me.
I know.
Didn't hear that from me. Oh, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about that. I know that it was supposed to come out in the fall.
Okay, I like that.
Maybe I've said too much.
Vance, you don't have to worry about it because you know what? It's not until they need you next, and they need you more than you need them. Let me tell you.
No, that's not true, man. I got to be honest with you. Trey called me. I've been a little hard to get a hold of because you and I have been talking back and forth.
Yes.
Diana and I, we did a 5,000-mile road trip.
Wow.
So we drove in my Volvo SUV, 5,000 miles. We went from Nashville all the way out to Boulder and down to Telluride and Moab and Park City and Jackson Hole and Wyoming and all across South Dakota and Chicago and Omaha, Chicago, and then back home over the course of about 14 days or something like that. And Trey called me. I was driving across Kansas, and he called me we were starting talking about the Beacon shows and all that. And it was this really awesome Trey conversation. I love talking to the guy. So much fun. And whenever we're working on something together, he'll call me every morning. Like he'll be like, "Hey, so I'm gonna run. I'm thinking if we move this song and this song, what do you think about we do this? What about this?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll get the studio." I'm writing it all down. I'll get the studio and I'll do it. And then he'll go, "No, that was totally wrong. You had it right. No, yeah, that's great." And we'll go back and forth. And but see, so many artists don't do that. Some of them are like, "Yeah, man, whatever you think." Like someone will be like, "Yeah, that's great. Cool. I love it. It's awesome. See ya." Some of them are like, "Okay, I need the 7th beat of bar 25 to move back 25 milliseconds." You know what I mean? It's like there's the whole range of dealing with people. And the thing that I love about Trey is, and there's no worse, people say for better or for worse, but he's so enthusiastic. And that's just fucking awesome. Because what he does, it makes you enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic about what he's doing.
Right.
Well, and like in Ghost of the Forest, there were a couple times where I was like, at one point I said, "Hey, this is above my pay grade, so take it for whatever. But I think this," you know what I mean? And he was like, "Good point. Like that's a good idea. Good point." And because you don't always know, like you just don't always know with people if you can do that.
Right.
With artists.
He is very open, and it's great to hear how much of a collaborator he is. I mean, we all love Trey here. I mean, he's been a real big influence on everybody, and it's amazing to get the perspective that you have in the studio for all these artists you've worked with, Chris Stapleton and Jack White and everybody. Vance, you're setting the world on fire. What's before I let you go, tell us what you're working on, or if you can.
Let's see.
Well, you said Chris Stapleton already.
Well, I did it. Yeah, it was a one-off. It was a couple of vocals he was guesting on a track. So that was nothing big. I mean, I said I just got back from this vacation. So I started a record with young country alt rock guy from California named Cole Gallagher next week. And then I'm working with a band from Woodstock called the Bobby Lees, who are awesome, furious, loud kids. The guitar player, I won my first Grammy in 2002, and we were having a talk about it, and he's like, "Yeah, I wasn't even born yet." I was like, "You little fucking shit," He's like, "2002, I wasn't even born yet."
Feel like it's not long ago, does it?
Yeah, it was just around the corner, but they are great, and I really love them. They've got all kinds of stuff up on YouTube. Lees. And the Bobby Lees, they are furious, man. It's just they're fucking awesome. The guitar player, singer, songwriter Samantha she's awesome. The bass player is great. The guitar player is great. Drummer's great. They're all fucking great, and they're kids. They're young people playing kick-ass loud rock and roll, and I love that.
That's
so
great.
I'm working with them. Beyond that, this year is one of those weird years where there's always things sort of floating around. COVID has sort of taken an impact in that records that were being made 3 or 4 months ago in studios that I would now be mixing were put off. So I have a feeling what's going to happen is come here in November, hopefully, that the world will be a little different, and we'll start to see the business pick back up, and hopefully we have an administration in the White House that can, get this pandemic somewhat under control. And, vote. I have kind of been on a Twitter binge lately. I honestly, I don't give a fuck if people I have a couple friends who are Trump supporters, and they're supporters for whatever reason they're supporters. I don't know. One of them is a single issue voter. She's a Trumper because of abortion. Trump doesn't give a fuck about abortion. He doesn't care. He just wants to own
He's paid for dozens of them. No,
absolutely. He doesn't give a shit about it, but it doesn't matter to her. However it gets there, it gets there. My other friend his dad was a fighter pilot. He's military, so he has to vote, Democratic, even though he was a guitar player playing surfer guy.
A Republican.
Yeah, he's just a hardcore Republican. And I basically just had to, at one point on Facebook, just come out and say, here's how I feel. If you don't like it, fuck off. Unfriend me. Just fuck off. Because I'm going to say these things to you as you're my friends. I'm going to yell into the wind. And on Twitter, I'm not a person, I don't even have a fucking clue how many people follow me on Twitter. I don't give a shit. I couldn't fucking care less. I like to get on there and just go, yes, agree. I like this. This is awesome. I'm going to retweet this. I like this. This is smart. This is somebody who's saying smart shit, I hate our senator, Marsha Blackburn. She's a fucking cunt.
Oh yeah, something went down with her today, right? There was just something big.
She said that Trump beat China again.
Yeah.
Good God, whatever.
I mean, the whole thing is it just blows my mind. But you know what? The most important thing is everybody figures out when the last time to register in their area is and get to the ballot box.
Yesterday for here.
Yesterday?
Early voting starts on the 14th here in Nashville. And Diane and I were going to go and stand in line. We voted absentee in the primary, but Tennessee's Supreme Court ruled that COVID wasn't a valid reason to vote absentee because it's a Republican state. Both our Senate and our House are both 70% Republican here. So,
Yeah, it's going to be what it's going to be. I just hope that for the sake of our republic that humanity wins. And
I can say that doing a 5,000-mile road trip, I saw 15-1 Trump to Biden posters, but I don't expect people in Wyoming to vote for Joe Biden. I don't expect people in rural Colorado to vote for Joe Biden. I don't respect that. I don't expect it because I know for a fact they live in a news bubble. They live in the Fox News bubble, and almost all of them are somewhat Christian evangelicals who want to get rid of abortion. And that's the reason. Most of them are sick of Trump's shit, but they'll vote party line because they're single issue voters.
Yeah, well, a lot of that's changed. I'll tell you what, Vance, in all my life, I've never, ever seen Republicans for the Democratic candidate. Never. Not with Nixon, not with Clinton, it's never happened. Is not with Bush? It's a new era coming.
I think that this will be let me rephrase. I hope my agnostic prayer is that this is the last time we'll see Mitch McConnell as the Senate leader. This will be the last time Susan Collins ever posts a vote. This will be the last time Murkowski votes. This will be McSally's gone. This will be Doug Jones is in Mississippi still. This will be the last time. Lindsey Graham will be gone. If that fucking cunt is gone, I'm happy. I called McConnell. My McConnell word is fuck turtle. I call him fuck turtle. If fuck turtle wins, I just want him to lose the speakership.
You can't have control anymore. You can't have a say.
He's got to go.
The whole thing is ridiculous. But Vance, I want to thank you because I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to us and making the time in your schedule. And
I'm just at home having a drink.
I know, but I know how time is, and I appreciate you making time to talk to us today, and I know all our fans do. Thanks so much. We look forward to more great music coming out of you and fixing what's wrong with our country too. Thank you, Vance.
One vote at a time.
One vote at a time. Thanks, Vance. Have a great day.
Awesome. See you. Bye.
Wow, Vance. Whew, one of the longest shows we've done in a while. We're almost at hour 20. What a show. Vance, intelligent guy, smart, plugged in, loved it. Full of great information. Peace, love, and happiness, everybody out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. You have 24 minutes to get ready for the debate, the mass debate. Turn that on tomorrow. We're going flocking, birds of a feather with the geese, with the goose. So I'm really looking forward to talking to the guys from Goose. They've been on a trajectory, and I just saw before I went on the air, they announced Halloween shows. So you'll be able to go and see them for Halloween, which I'd love to go see some music for for the holiday, for Halloween. But who knows, folks? Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Thank you. Goose tomorrow. Anders Osborne, Ivan Neville, and Annabelle Lucan with a little sober talk on Friday to send you off in your weekend thinking. All right. 420.